The first time Gil Sanchez drove west into Glacier County and came upon the Rockies, he had the distinct impression that the earth was baring her teeth at him. Over a year and a dozen visits later, standing at their feet still made him twitchy. As a native Texan, he'd seen nature turn homicidal often enough. Tornadoes, wildfires, blizzards. But in the Panhandle, the land itself wasn't designed to rip a man to pieces and feed the scraps to the nearest grizzly bear. He scowled up at the impassive peaks and cliffs, but the mountains didn't give a single damn about how he felt. Their attitude, at least, he could appreciate. If all went as planned, this would be the last time they loomed over him. The lost boy he'd come here to help had found his way through the worst of his so-called dark night of the soul. Most of Hank's recovery was thanks to a woman called Bing, who'd hauled Hank out of a Yakima, Washington hospital and brought him here to heal, body and soul. Now Bing had decided it was time for him to go home, and Gil was here to make sure it happened. Gil wriggled on the sleeper bunk of his 18-wheeler, too restless for the confined space. Back home, he would have hit the weight room to work off the jittery tension. Here, he couldn't even go for a nighttime jog without the risk of being wolf bait. And he would not have parked across the road from the Stockman's bar if he'd had any idea it would be this lively on a night long after nearly everything else around Glacier National Park had buttoned up for the winter. Across the road, the rumble of vehicles pulling into the parking lot and the swelling cacophony of voices and laughter drew his attention away from the mobile app that allowed him to monitor the progress of other Sanchez trucks across the nation. The noise stirred up his already too alert senses and made him want. Finally, he set the phone aside with a hiss of impatience. Of course he wanted to join the party. It was his default setting, especially if there was alcohol involved. But he no longer craved the company of any random human who'd drink with him. For the most part, he didn't crave the company of humans at all, with a few notable exceptions. And he'd learned there was no loneliness worse than being unknown in a crowd. So why was he so compelled to cross this road, join this crowd? Distraction? That was safe enough in the form of people watching and random conversation with a few of the locals. Escape? That was dicier if it meant putting himself in a place where over a dozen years of sobriety could end with a wave at the bartender. No, it wasn't the company, and his fingers weren't itching to curl around a cold beer bottle. Tonight, the music tugged at him, the unmistakable sound of a live band.